Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Smile Albion Giants League. I- I'm here, Snake, and I'm joined here by the one and only Ted Listens. How are you, Ted?
Hey, Snake, man, I'm so good, man. It's Saturday. I'm just enjoying my wonderful day off, and I'm glad to be here watching some AGL action from the Gladiator division.
Yeah, as you mentioned, today we have a match for the Gladiators divisions, and is between both teams that are kind of like a similar name. Is Stardust Vice versus Tokyo Vice. So, well, apparently this teams are like in the same clan, so we're expecting like a really good matchup between two really good level teams.
Yeah, I mean, Stardust Vice, Arctic Vice, or I'm sorry, Tokyo Vice and Arctic Vice. I'm sorry. They've been around the league for a little bit, for a few seasons. They've had a couple different iterations of their teams and the different teams that they're involved with. Really looking forward to seeing Lonzo Ball. I'm a ADC myself, and I've played against him a few times in league games and also in ranked games, and he's just a very, very good player. So I'm looking forward to see what he can do with his team, Tokyo Vice, and I'm really excited for this matchup.
Well, let's wait no more and just jump right into the picks and bans for this match. So the new meta we per se, that kind of have like a little bit of new picks racing up. We've seen a lot of the Guardians in the solo lane really dominating that, except for Odin, that also is like a really good pick there in the solo lane, and really, really like frontline center teams. When they really rely on the front line for have a successful team fight. So do you expect like they prioritize those frontliners in the first picks and bans?
Yeah, I mean, with the amount of burst that you're getting from the Mace tree right now, with Jotuns being buffed, Crusher being buffed, with the assassins being so, or even physical characters in general being so high buffed, with the Mace tree being buffed, you really have to keep that backline alive. You have to be able to withstand that burst. So gods like Geb, Terra, any kind of like second half team fight or protective supports are very valuable. You really want to kind of lock those down. Plus, Geb also recently received a buff with his ultimate dealing so much damage. I mean, you could build full tank and still 100 to 0 carry pretty easily. So it'll be interesting to see where they place their priority, because if you have the most confidence in your jungler, you want to get a top tier jungle pick for them with the most amount of burst. And if you have worries about keeping your backline alive, you really want to prioritize that front line for your team.
Well, unsurprisingly, what we've been talking about is only Ario banned as for now, and we have two mages, Hell and Tiamat, and Uller banned. So is this kind of surprising to you? But because at least for me, it is a little bit.
I'm generally not surprised right here. So, RDO is pretty oppressive, whether it's support or solo lane. Really can do a lot, really can just make it uncomfortable. You're burning your beads as a carry, or, you have a really hard time. And it provides a lot of easy follow up for your own team if you have the RDO. Because the beads are gone, or all the mobility is gone, and now you can kind of just go in and do your entire kit. Uller is also very top tier with the current builds. With everyone's going this Bumba's Dagger, and they're doing Transcendence or Crusher and Jotuns. I mean, it's really favors an Ulu player. And even if you go mid, you can go mid with him. You can go solo, or I mean, carry. I mean, potentially, I've even seen a couple times in ranked with him being in the jungle. So Tiamat's always going to be a valuable pick. So many abilities, so much versatility, and Hell being such a second half god, being able to keep your team together and do a ton of burst. I like both bands, so both sets of bands so far.
Yeah, and also we have a band that we haven't seen really a lot is that Persephone. So Persephone after the rework hasn't been really much seen. So I mean, do you think this is a good band or is just like a target band?
I think it's a good band. I know that Persephone isn't as prevalent as some people might think, but she does a stupid boatload of damage. Her plants don't stop; they just keep doing damage, and you can't even get away from it. So if you're walking away or trying to get away, you're kind of controlled in where you can go, and it's also very oppressive. And her ultimate is, everyone has to focus on her ult to get it down. Gilgamesh though ban coming out, it's pretty normal. Still, they gave him a couple tuning aspects, but I think ultimately, getting him out means that you don't have to worry about how stifling he can be as well.
Yeah, and now looking for the picks, a good mage that was left open was Raging, and that's why I thought that Raging maybe could have been a better ban instead of Persephone.
Sure.
And also for Stardust buys, we are looking for an Odin who is like one of the best solo laners right now, if not like the best warrior out of the
Mhm.
solo lane, and a Kamazots. And Tokyo Valley responded that with a Horus and a Willix.
Mhm.
So a Horus, we haven't seen that much of a Horus, haven't we?
No, Horus hasn't really been. He's actually one of my favorite warriors. Obviously, he's more of a support than a solo laner, but he's probably one of my favorite as far as like his mobility and his ability to engage with his team with his ultimate and do that whole drop ship. If you can get any type of big ultimates, big stifling ultimates, you can really control team fights and have a really good shot at winning engagements. It's kind of strange to see this Odin picked up so early. We know that if you draft a god like that so early, you're kind of showing your hand and making it so people get leaps and they know to get out of it or have abilities to get out of it. Camazotz isn't bad though. It kind of seems like they really want to play through the jungle and be able to just stick on people and secure kills. Following up with this Merlin, they have a lot of ways to kind of progress or retreat with their mobility. Not sure if I again really agree with this Odin being picked so early, but maybe they're just really comfortable with it.
Yeah, I mean, as much as like you said, Odin is a really good pick in the solo lane, so you can't really go wrong with him. Um, and now, he can really do good things with this Merlin because you just lock a lot of people in, and the whole AoE abilities that Merlin has can make him to do a lot of damage in those team fights. And
Mhm.
going through the second phase of bans, we have here Izanami. I think that's Cthulhu,
Yeah,
Hoji,
Cthulhu.
and Chiron.
Mhm.
So a lot of hunter bans. How do you think about this?
The hunter bans are somewhat questionable. Izanami's kind of oppressive early, but at the same point, she doesn't really take advantage of the mace tree as much as she would the auto attack tree. Chiron obviously would. Hui with his recent buff does a ton of damage too. So it's curious to see that they don't want to play against those. Um, I mean, I don't necessarily think that's the way you have to go, but we do see this. We do see, Cthulhu being prevalent and making sure that he's not in the picture. You don't have to build all those health items. Maybe like a Kins or like a Soul Reaver. You don't have to prioritize those as much because Cthulhu is in the game. Although they're still good items, but you don't have to make sure that they're in your build from the get go.
And now for our final picks, we have San Wukong and Honor for the part of Tokyo Vice, and we have Hachiman and Naig. So interesting options here for Stardust Vice because they are choosing four physical gods and only one mage as Merlin. So
Yeah.
what do
Oh,
you
well,
think about this? And also like the support, who's gonna be?
so I'm getting a little bit of feedback. I'm getting a little bit of a notice that it seems as though the titles are flipped. Tokyo Vice is actually on the right, and Stardust Vice is on the left. So slight production miscalculation. It just it happens sometimes because of technical issues. But regardless, I think Nike, Hachi, I, honestly, I really like Stardust Vice on the left. I like I like their draft more. They just seem to have a lot more ability to just crush objectives, crush individual players. They really have a ton of a dive and abilities to really control the fights that they're going to be going against with Tokyo. Tokyo does have a nice draft. The other thing about Odin that we were talking about earlier, he could go solo, he could go jungle, he could go support, it could go either way. But I'm interested to see how this game plays out. And yeah, the fourth is questionable sometimes, but let's see how it plays out for him, right?
Well, let's wait no more and just jump right into the game one for the set of the Gladiators divisions. Frog and Supersonic Blur, take it away.
Thank you so much, Snake and Ted. My name is Frog. I'm joined by Supersonic Blur. I'm so excited to have you with me today as we take a look at these two teams. My understanding is they're a part of the same sort of group, and so they have this very similar name, but they seem to have pretty different strategies starting off the game. I mean, these comps seem to have really different goals as they look towards the team fight stage of the game.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that side. Stardust Vice, 4 physicals with a Raijin as your only magical. This is just burst. But a really nice way that they've worked it is having a little bit of Vice options here. Grizzy Main and Shadow both want to jump in and start a fight and engage in problems. You have a Wheelish who says, you don't get to just jump in and engage on us. So they've hampered that for themselves. I'm really looking forward to how these kind of fights are going to go ahead and break out. But a little bit of time before then, Odin support, not something I think we've seen since the season 1 days of Zeus Odin combos duo lane. But hello, mid lane.
Early on pick in the mid lane, Ninjax picking up the Raijin for that first blood. And I think that's one of the things that we see in these jungle roles is it seems like there's going to be a lot of pressure from both sides. Camazotz and a Wheelish, neither of them afraid of getting involved early. But some action on both sides as we see a Wheelish once again maybe getting collapsed on here in the mid lane, forced to use the overhead kick onto the Camazotz, not the right ability, feather step, excuse me, and able to blink away, so she'll be safe for the time being, but some early action in the mid lane.
It is, and it looks like that Ninja used that blink to go ahead and get that first blood kill over onto Luku. Is honestly what you really want to see. Like Camazotz and a Wheelish, both of them on... once the first thing you think of when you come to those is early game level to kill pressure. But that said, the fact that we are in a sort of burst meta, but somewhat of a early pressure through items, getting that sort of snowball going early really will help out. Now, is that Ninja with that 500 gold or so that they've got in their back pocket, instead of on the first back they get tier 2 mace, maybe they get full Jotun's Wrath now. Maybe they get something else extra to be able to keep that going, and that can cause a lot of trouble right now. But Rich, looking again into that mid lane, really trying to mount some pressure, but keep an eye on the Wheelish.
In the back here, onto the dual lane, deleted is Lonzo Ball. We got some hyping up for him onto the desk. He's the first one taken out for the side of Stardust Vice. Gets that kill, and Ninja may be in a rough spot now. Good jump to escape, but does get the knock up. Missed Impale, though. May allow him to escape for the time being. Feather Step still on the cards. Does a lot of damage to him, but unable to finish up the kill. And now we get Merlin on the rotation. We'll see if they stick around any longer. Looks like they want to go for the purple invade. 4v3 on this side of the map right now, trying to secure the buff off the start. Oler jumps in, trying to take the damage. Wheelish very low. Ninja getting the kill onto it. Odin taking the kill, and 2 traded back so far. Able to escape both supports on very low health, and Magic jumps maybe in the wrong direction here, but it's actually Horus being chased. Able to check support. Fantastic jump, gets 2 members there, and Magic might be the final one to clean it off. Able to trade one back, but just a scrappy fight early on.
Scrappy was definitely the word to use there. Magic goes on to see if they can isolate a member, but the way that Tokyo Vice play that so beautifully there. Rich's rotation, absolutely huge from the Merlin at this early on. Less so much damage and more just the zone control. Place down that ice storm so you can't let a blizzard so no one else can go along there. If you go that way, you're slowed, you die. If you don't go that way, you're running back into 3 members, you die. Really, really like the way they're playing this. And as a team grouping up, Stardust Vice, I feel like they stayed a little bit too long up around on that blue buff, on that purple side of things. They already went for the initial gank, didn't quite work out. And instead of saying, all right, let's back it up and then go for the gank again, they just stay there and sort of meander about, giving Vice more than enough time to be able to just walk on over and say, hey, let's just make this kind of a fight. And now they find themselves in a fantastic position. I mean, look at Rich scoreline: 5 kills, 2-0-3. That's a perfect game so far.
Yeah, Tokyo Vice off to a hot start. We'll see if they can continue that, but first we're running into some technical difficulties, so we're going to throw it to a quick break, and we'll join you back with the action in just a bit. Folks, sorry about that quick break, but we might be jumping right into a fight. Merlin and Wheelish both rotating towards the left side of the map. Another 4v3. Might be another fight starting off here. Horus getting some damage onto the Odin. On her ult, forced out. Not low enough, though, and it might be on her on the run instead. Both dual lane numbers very low. Looking to be cleaned up. First kill, second kill. Both fall for Tokyo Vice. Great rotations there.
Absolutely insane. That was Stardust wanting to try and take that engagement. Brizzy Main able to live the sovereignty first item. This is one of the things that's always a little bit of a thorn in the side. When you got 4 physicals, you are not punished by going in for some heavy physical defense, and there is no better first item than the sovereignty for it. 65 base physical protections, a good chunk of health, and HP 5, and some of those procs go to the teammate as well. phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal look. The thing for me that was there is, as you mentioned, that was a 4v3 fight in that point. Lucky Pookie has not been able to make these kind of rotations. Rich, on the other hand, has just been able to meander across the map. And I do say meandering because the time it takes to do those things isn't exactly a short jaunt. It's quite a while, and we haven't seen any real pressure or counter rotation or anything come out from this mid lane. So those early 2 kills really seem to have stunted what Lucky is looking to do this game, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, Narayan falling early on 2 times in addition to these 2 rotations from Rich on the Merlin has absolutely shot him 2 levels ahead here, but now it's looking towards the solo lane. Wheelish over here not having success in the duo lane, wanting to try on the other side of the map, and he'll pull back into Kamazots. Might be able to get the ultimate off, not in time. Deleted. Great look for Tokyo Vice. Or excuse me, Stardust Vice.
Yeah, not quite such a good look for Tokyo Vice, unfortunately, there, but that's a good look, and I like playing through the lane that's not fallen behind or is actually now ahead because of it. I think it's a good look to say, okay, duo lane, we tried fighting there, it ain't working. We can either keep trying to beat this dead horse and potentially fall further behind, or mix it up, try something else. Get the Sun Wukong ahead. Now, if Wukong makes some rotations in, that's going to be a really good look and might be able to swing the favors into some 4v3s in favor of Stardust this time. But as it currently stands, Stardust are not out of the game. Yes, the kills, you know, they're almost half the kills to Tokyo Vice, but at this point in time, that's all they are kills.
Still anybody's game at this point. And we get a chance now to take a look at some of the builds and some of the god picks specifically. And I'm wondering on your thoughts on this Sun Wukong, as we just saw him focused a little bit towards this right lane. He's not a solo laner that we're typically seeing over here in the solo lane. We might not even get a chance to talk about that as another 3-man rotation happens towards this duo lane, but may be called off as Horus dashed away. So we will get a chance to talk about that.
We will. A good little warding there to be able to help with that. And I think that this is something that both of these teams, like has been mentioned, they're very familiar with each other. So I half expect that this is a meta that they're both very familiar with and these play styles. So it can sometimes be a case of sort of you just play what's the same and change up maybe 1 or 2 small things. But either way, not too bad. And we're only 8 minutes into this game. And the one thing that is nice for Stardust is the later this goes, we are going to see that Horus healing start to have more and more of an impact later on. But talking about that Horus, let's see some impact now.
Engage on the right side of the map. 4 members over here, and they're trying to take him down. Will do so successfully. Kamazot's ulted early on, trying to get some damage off, and this Raijin ult will try to pull him back in, but the Taiko drum's not good enough for right now. But still, 3 members over here. They want to re-engage. Tokyo Vice onto 2 low members of the enemy team. Still has that cage for the Odin, not choosing to pop it, and just letting members walk away instead. Taziablo is pretty low. I'm surprised he wasn't engaged harder on.
Yeah, I thought the moment that cage was going to come down instantly, but instead Busy Main opts for the Gunge, going for the stun. Not 100% on that one. You're a little greedy at times you can get with some of these abilities. Oh, if I save my ult, we'll have it for the better fight when we can really punish them. It's like, or we could just punish them now. I mean, Odin ult isn't... It's very sort of binary in what it does. It cages people. Or blocks them off. That's about it. But now we might see some retribution here in the duo lane. Into the mounted archery, Lonzo goes. They will be able to disengage, but that is the ult forced, only beads available. We'll have to see if I'm Magic can do anything with that.
And not a lot expended from Taziablo, just some abilities and quick damage out and able to take him down to half health almost instantly, which bodes well for a gank perhaps in the future. But it does seem that Lonzo Ball has been able to take advantage of this aggression rather well over in the duo lane, has been able to continue to push this lead, but it might be Brizzy Main pushing this lead onto a potential red buff invade. Jumping in onto Taziablo, it might be Rich now caught in some trouble, but these members seem like they don't know what they want to do with themselves. They went for the red buff steal, they didn't get it, and they were a little bit disjointed after that.
But look how far Lucky is having to sit back here, constantly worried about a potential dive that's coming on through. Brizzy goes straight for it, but Thunderclap will get them away in time. And that is one thing that I've noticed that Brizzy's constantly doing. I wonder if this is a sort of conditioning thing for Stardust, is Brizzy doesn't instantly leap and drop the ult. They will always go to follow up CC rather than straight drop the ult. It might be something that they use there. Good secure there from pick 6, but will they be able to get away? Oxform says yes for now.
A good secure with the Jingu Bang there onto the blue buff. Awilish was a little bit late on that buff, but no harm, no foul, as he still manages to get that XP for himself. And as we step back and take a look at the levels, despite the early success that Tokyo Vice had in some of those kills over in the dual lane, we do see an XP lead on the solo side of the map, solo jungle, both being one level ahead, as well as the support on the side of Stardust Vice maintaining that XP lead. So they've looked good since those early falls.
They certainly have, and this is where early pressure has to be tempered with an understanding of how to use it. Great, you got 4 early kills in the duo lane. What have you done with it? Well, we fought in the duo lane a little bit more, and mid's a little bit ahead. Okay, how are you going to use that? Well, we rotated our mid over. Well, great. Now look what's just happened. Lonzo's dead because of 2 rotations from Stardust. Those early pressures have to transition into more ways to get further ahead. Now, Stardust have found themselves an opportunity to start up the Gold Fury.
More members on this side of the map, and Nike rotating in, but a little bit late to the fight. Might be Brizzy falling before she can get there. Some damage coming off, half HP. All ultimates still available for the duo side, or for the Tokyo Vice side, that is, but will come to a standstill as it's a 4v4, but only because Sun Wukong hasn't joined to give them an advantage, but Chris isn't done. Going on to Ninja, forcing him to jump away, but Brizzy stuck in the front line, still having to jump, but good cage allows Shadow and entry in. 3 members low, all ultimates pop. Now Chris in some trouble, taken down early on. Tokyo Vice looking for another, and it'll be Pookie to fall for the second kill. Hachiman back up to respawn, but only needs to help with the Gold Fury.
And that's exactly what you want from an Odin cage. Hey, this is a team fight. It looks like the enemies are trying to reconsolidate, group up. Nah, you're still fighting on this on our terms. Tokyo Vice, slow to get towards the Gold Fury, but as soon as they're there, Stardust immediately drop Gold Fury. They say, we don't want to take this fight. We don't want to risk them coming back in. Let's go ahead and take the fight. And they start to, but their target selection is a little scattered. Busy main being focused. Great. You focus out the Odin, you get rid of the cage. There is a Merlin right beside them, free casting almost the entire time. Lucky was the only one, I think, threw any abilities towards them. So the Merlin gets the free cast, and this Merlin, if we could pull up the damage charts real quick, I just want to have a quick peek at what they're doing, because I think throughout these engagements, they've got to be sitting pretty high up. Yeah, 6,300 on the player damage, second only to a Mystical Male solo lane Nike. I think that's the target I'd be looking at right now.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the XP leads for the solo and the jungle side, but as opposed to their 1 level lead, it's a 2 level lead here for Rich in mid, been making a huge impact in many of these fights, and it's really that mid difference that we saw early on in the rotations, and in that fight in particular, Pookie, I think, needs to be doing more, especially with these Taiko drums. Such an impactful ult, when used correctly, can tear through a team fight, and we just haven't seen that be as effective as I think it needs to be in some of these fights. But one thing I will say is we're continuing to see this shutdown on the other carry of the game. Yet another gank coming in on the left side of the map. Blink in from Awilish onto Lonzo Ball. Doesn't even get a chance to escape. Still has the ultimate up.
He stole it!
And the Pyromancer gets stolen as well. Wins across the map for Stardust Vice, and it looks like they may get the tier 2 tower as well.
That's just the absolute best response you could have. That, because it's literally, all right, guys, let's kill Lonzo. All right, Lonzo's now so to the team. Guys, there are 3 of them over here, or 4 potentially. Go and do Pyromancer. Stardust know that Tokyo know there are 3 members over there, so they will send 1 member over because they know that they're looking at the Pyromancer. The fact that Pick 6 is able to stall them out long enough, I don't know if it was Lucky or Pick 6 who gets it, but either way, great work there from the team. And so, and that Tokyo probably should be able to tighten up. Like, you know it's a Wukong, you know it's a Raijin. Try and take those 2. If you can see everyone else on the map, maybe go for a pick of your own.
That's a potential negative about their composition, though, on the side of Tokyo Vice. A real lack of secure on their side in generally. Maybe, you know, the Merlin Ice one, the Frostbite, may be the secure that they're looking for. But, I mean, when it comes to abilities like that, it's really the Raijin's Taiko drums that has the advantage over any objectives they may be looking for in the future. But Tokyo Vice then have the shred, so it's sort of the best of both worlds. And when it comes to these objectives, both teams have to be aware of what the other team has in their strengths.
Yeah, for now, and the Bombers, if this Bomber's Spear does be, or some of this, this Bomber's Dagger becomes a Bomber's Spear, there is going to see some rise to that. You get 50% additional ability damage, so these assassins will have a fair bit to them, but that's level 20, and 16 minutes in here, we're still perching around the mid-10s at this point, so the mid-teens for these levels. So I'd say we're probably in the adolescence of the game now, and the way that it's been going very back and forth, this is going to come down to some of those later game Fire Giant dances, it seems like, and how these two teams commit to a full team fight, because we're still on skirmishes.
Looks like they're trying to commit over on the left side of the map. Once again, onto Lonzo Ball, forces that mounted archery out, and they've just continued to put so much pressure over on this dual lane towards the mid stages of the game after Tokyo had such a good success over there towards the early stages. They really bounced back well and put Lonzo down, and I think that bodes towards their team fight stages. They're really going to have to put on her here in a position to succeed and use that XP lead that they've now given him.
Yeah, and look at this. We are going to see it. It looks like the next fight, not around the Fire Giant, but definitely around this Oni Fury. We're even going to see the solo laners make the rotation. They're going to get spotted out. Pick 6, I think, has got to make a really big impact here. With that upgraded Sunder, they can take anyone and evaporate them. Also, keep an eye, that will affect the Nike's health shield. Not completely, but 50% of it will go instantly if they do hit it. So, we're just posturing for now.
Yeah, it was Nike here on the Gold Fury fight last time making an impact, and Pick 6 was nowhere to be found, and that led to a big objective win for Tokyo Vice, but won't be the case this time around. 5 members on the left side of the map for both teams. This Gold Fury now blinking, able to respawn. Blitzy in a little bit of a position, trying to get some poke off, but hesitant to pull out the cage as he has been throughout the rest of this game. In fact, I think his only very impactful cage was in this Gold Fury fight the last time around, so we'll see if he can recreate that, but for right now, it's just a dance.
Yeah, maybe we see a potential knock-up. A lot of poke. There's a blink on into the backline immediately, but there's no follow-up from Stardust just yet.
Chris not close enough to his teammates, forces the jump in from Brizzy main. It might be Pick 6 missing the Tiger stun, actually. Some failed engages on the side of Stardust, but damage being poked either way. Neither member is really low, but it's Brizzy in the front line looking for a cage target. Not able to find it quite yet, but Chris takes a lot of damage in the meantime. Battle of attrition here, as you mentioned. Heal coming out from Horus, but it's just this back and forth right now. Both teams hesitant to pull the Gold Fury, but Tokyo on the front foot.
Now we're going to see this just again, the Raijin trying to throw out as much damage as they can over the wall, and that's going to take the first member down. That's the front line gone, and just look at the collapse from Tokyo.
Raijin trying to escape. It's actually Kamazot's trying to fight back into this, forced up into the ultimate, but only one member taken down so far, and that's Chris, and he'll be back up in 20 seconds. They still have a chance to defend this. 4 members still alive for Stardust Vice, but it's the Gold Fury being started up now, and a good zone trying to come out from Ninja. Great pullback with good beads from Ninja. Gold Fury at half HP, and Nike trying to use that Sentinel Zeus to zone, and it will be Sun Wukong in the front line with a chance to steal, but a better chance to die, but it's a trade out from the side of Stardust, and a better trade for the Gold Fury. 2 for 3 across the board, and the Gold Fury, or 2 for 1, across the board for Tokyo Vice, but it might continue here, trying to push up his Stardust, trying to get members on, good on her ult, but better damage from the side of Stardust. Will get 3 members. 1 traded back, but huge win for Tokyo.
A 5-for-2 ending with a Fury as well. Very good look for Tokyo Vice. And very interesting to see how they play that. We don't see an Odin cage the entire time. It's that thread of activation. I think this thread that Brizzy is riding is so fine it's almost imperceivable. That idea of, we've got Odin cage. The moment you use it, you're going to have to pop Phantom. So how about I just don't use it and you keep walking back? All right, now I'm going to step back a little bit. And they keep threading it. Like, that fight started around between the purple buff and the red buff, and it ended up down by the back camps. That's how much Brizzy was constantly just pushing back Stardust, constantly in that situation. At some point, someone from Stardust has to go, no, we need to push back. And we never saw that. We never saw this Wukong or this Awilish go ahead and find a pick into the backline. And I feel like that's very much on Tokyo being able to position themselves so well, and the amount of fear they have put into this region. They were the sole focus the entire time, and everyone from Stardust knew it. And look how far back they were playing because their region didn't feel safe.
Absolutely, and it needs to be a better response from Stardust if they want to have a chance in this next fight. Odin continues to get away with this little damage, and you saw Chris try and step up and do a similar thing. He was a little bit in the face of Brizzy, and it was Tokyo who immediately capitalized on that and took advantage of that. But it's actually Tokyo now in a good spot here on her in a rough one, trying to take this 1v1, but little does he know it's a 2v1, not in favor of him. But Awilish might turn the tables. Immediate damage onto Alonso Ball, but it's the cage taking out on her as well. 1-for-1 trade so far, might be 2-for-1 if Awilish can clean this up. Horasalt coming in, looking for the CC, gonna help out, but not needed. Raijin on the rotation as well, 2-for-1 trade.
And this is what the Horus does. They just drop ship the entire team on over, say, here's a fight. Like, imagine that in the last fight. We just see Horus ult go right into the middle of the enemy team. Be absolutely huge cacophony of noise at that spot, but that is what could have been. Here's what's happening now under the mid tier 1 tower. Rich is certainly taking a beating, but will be able to slip on away using that experience lead. Level 19 in 22 minutes is not too bad of a look. Stardust are going to start up a siege.
Trying to push down this mid tier 1 tower. Nike's down to give it away. And it's a bunch of towers that have now fallen on both sides. So let's take note of everything that's fallen since that Gold Fury. The Pyromancer went the way of Tokyo Vice, as did the mid and left tier 1 tower. But immediately turned back, Stardust Vice get 2 members for 1 and take that mid tier 1 tower for themselves. In addition to those 2 tier 2 towers over in the dual lane that they pushed earlier. So a good amount of map pressure, I think, for both sides having a window to move forward if they were to win a large fight. But it's actually Tokyo Vice trying to start up this Fire Giant. It's not falling very fast, and Stardust Vice have some vision on it. They've now hopped off the fight and trying to get the kills, but a great pillar will stop that engagement in its tracks. Up until Pick 6 tries to get some more damage off, but looks like we may be have the same dance as before.
This time, though, over the slightly more weighty Fire Giant to deal with. But look at this. There's the blink. There's the cage. 3 members caught in. Tokyo Vice are not sitting around.
Cage gets popped. Traps 4 members in, but all of them back up, and it's immediate disengage from Stardust Vice. But it's 2 ults, or 1 ult for 1. Sun Wukong was forced to ultimate out there, but that was the only thing engaged from both sides. And Odin didn't need the cage the last time he won a fight, but it's pulled in this time, trying to get the damage off, trying to engage, but he might be the one falling. Gets out with minimal HP, and it's the enemies of Stardust Vice who are falling instead. So many low members here on the side of that. 2 members have fallen already. Might be a 3rd, might be a 4th as Raijin's looking to fall right here. Good peel from Sun Wukong will keep him alive for the time being, but I'm not sure how long it's gonna last. He wants to keep it. It's a trade on the turnaround, and so many members falling from both sides, it'll end up being a deicide for Tokyo Vice.
A very interesting play. They literally played the exact same fight 2 times around there. We see Odin leap on in, go for the cage, pull, then fall back, go straight back to the exact same spot. This time getting pulled on in by the Awilish, but just too tanky to be able to be dealt with, and then able to slip away. At that point, Stardust are on full retreat, but have nowhere to be able to go. The damage coming through from these 2 carries is astronomical. Full rage online now for Lozo, with the Soul Reaver and the Obsidian Shard as well for Rich. There's just not really anyone who can stand up to these 2, and Stardust Vice, we've not seen that dive. It's always been focused onto this Odin for the frontline side of things, and that is a lot of work there from Brizzy, saying, you want to focus me. Like, this isn't Athena who makes you look at them. This isn't, some off tank that's super squishy or anything like that. This is an Odin. You know that Odin's tanky, yet still they are taking so much damage away from their carries, and that is an invaluable in these team fights.
I mean, even if Brizzy gave away his life there early on in that fight, I think it's still a huge asset for Tokyo Vice, and they continue to win that fight. But it's even better when he manages to get out with his life, and that sliver of HP allows him to come back and finish the Fire Giant. So now it's 3 members of Tokyo Vice with the Fire Giant around their waists, and 3 towers standing on the side of Stardust Vice. And only 25 minutes into the game, the next Fire Giant will be enhanced, or at least very close to it when we spawn, and Gold Fury being taken down now. But I expect it to be a standard push of those 3 towers, a standard siege across the map for the side of Tokyo Vice before they happen to push down a Phoenix.
I would also expect to see that, as we're seeing around 7,000 gold in the lead with those 3 towers. You'd be looking to reasonably, maybe a 10,000, depends how Stardust want to try and respond here. They have gone ahead and thrown one to a base race over on the right-hand side, but even so, Tier 2 tower is already dealt with. As this Wheelish shows up on the map, then expect Tokyo Vice to push harder than they are right now.
She's taking down that Tier 2 tower. Looks like it will go unanswered, but still a standard move over towards this mid lane for Tokyo Vice. And we'll see if Wheelish chooses to back. Not quite yet. Going to take this wave, but it's going to have to wait a lot longer if she wants to push the Phoenix. And it's actually Kamazot's backing to try and deal with this Wheelish, but Wheelish will get the back off in time, and it's looking for an engage for Stardust Vice. Now a 4v4 on this side of the Phoenix. Maybe looking for a cage is Brizzy, but good CC will push him back right there and prevent his team from being taken down. But it's still going to be the 3 Tier 2 towers, it looks like, for the side of Tokyo.
It does. An interesting play there from Stardust. Just wanting to push out. And I like the call. It's not fun, first of all, to sit and watch from Phoenix as all 3 towers go down, and especially when you know that one member has backed, you might be able to try and take that little bit of a power play, see if you can't get something off of it. And with only 3 members with the Fire Giant, it is still important to recognize there is a slight imperfection in this attack, shall we say, from Tokyo Vice here. But Pyromancer now down. It's mostly finishing on the scraps. We may see 1 or so attempts on a siege at the Phoenix, but in terms of Phoenix sieges here, both of these teams have a relatively good time. The biggest one is going to be Brizzy main's ult. How effective that's going to be, where those get placed. Is it going to be under the tower? Is it going to be outside of the Phoenix on an attempt from Stardust pushing back? And Merlin's damage can go so far over the walls that, honestly, it's going to be very difficult for Stardust to find a good angle onto these backliners. It's going to have to come down to, well, these 3 blinks.
Rich has stayed undying in this game, and I hope he keeps... I think he probably plans to for the remainder of the game if he can help it. So it'll definitely be a challenge for Stardust Vice to get onto him in the backline, since they haven't been successful doing so already. But we get a little bit of a lull here as we're waiting for the enhanced Fire Giant to spawn, and we get a chance to talk about some of the items that have been picked up from both squads. Now, here's what I want you to do, Blair. Okay, I'm giving you a challenge, okay? I want you to look at the screen and pick any item you want, and just just go wild. Just tell me why it was picked up.
Okay then, so we're gonna go have a look at Dominance. Dominance is a recently changed one. Yes, I know production, the corrupted bluestone. I'll get to that in a sec. But Dominance, we'll have a look here at the Dominance. Recently changed, got a buff. 25% penetration on basic attacks is a fantastic stat. Giving on her that, as well as Enfeeble for his passive, protection reduction. If Brizzy is going to be that assertive that they are going to be the one in the front line, this Dominance is honestly the best single pen item for an ADC you could possibly ask for. Not only are you going to get a huge chunk of power, you're going to go ahead and get a bunch of sustain to keep you around in the fight in terms of mana, and this is exactly what Onher needs. I think Onher is the best person couple that in with the rest of the items that they've opted for, it's almost all pen, and now with that kin size as well, that is going to affect that with that 10%, so very, very nice. Now, the Corrupted Bluestone, on the other hand, that's more about trying to deal with some of these attack speeds coming through from the Hachiman, but we'll have to see how effective it's going to be as the fight breaks out.
Tries to jump in, pulled in, but they get a good cage target, and it will be Raijin falling early on. Explorers falling early on. Raijin may be next to fall, though. All the members of Stardust Vice on the back foot now. It's on her to fall next. 2 members fall so far. On the retreat is members, and they are just trying to get away, but they are not being successful. Raijin's going to be the last one to fall, but it's yet another deicide for Tokyo Vice. That happened in the blink of an eye.
Hey, I see what you did there, cause Kamazot's blinked to get that first kill. I like that. Well done. I appreciate the pun on that side of things. Dino does not over on that side. But 30 minutes in, and great work there. Unfortunately, this is what happens in the late game with the Odin. You can't really afford to just use the ult onto him because you've got no one to blow him up. Still, though, Stardust Vice, they hold out for 30 minutes, but can't go much longer.
Well, it was an impressive showing towards the start, and I think towards the mid-game especially. We saw some good looks from Taziablo on this Awilish. I think he made a really good use of that Awilish to use, to get picks as it's meant for, sort of in that mid-game. But I mean, it just looked like they were struggling to deal with the team fight, not even towards the late game when you're absolutely right. They were unable to blow up the Odin, but it just feels like Brizzy so much was able to make an impact. I mean, do you think they need to take this character away from him?
I think Odin is certainly a god that is warranted in the respect of a ban or even a pick, just because of how much it can impact everything. It impacts your picks or how you deal with the Odin cage. It impacts whether or not you can afford to go into sustain. Can you afford to buy someone with a phantom? You've also then got, well, if they've got Odin, now they can pick up a healer. So it's definitely something that I think can warrant being banned away. I think the way that Brizzy Main played this, though, it's definitely worth banning away. As an entirely for this team.
Ready.
Well, we'll see if they can bounce back in game number 2. But before we get there, we're going to get the thoughts from the desk. We'll throw it back to Snake and Ted to break it down.
Thank you, Frog and Supersonic, for that amazing cast. Here I am again with Ted, of course. So, a really tough match that, even though Tokyo Vice won, and they were ahead most of the match, that was really close, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a really close match. It seemed like there was a lot of action early on. I mean, that Anher got a really early lead. He had 3 kills in the first 5 minutes. It did seem though that they didn't push their picks correctly. I feel like Chris Forth on the Horus, when he was playing aggressively, when he was out there initiating or diving the backline and making things happen, they saw a lot of production for their team. But when they were playing receptively, when they were playing defensively, like around the first Gold Fury, they all kind of were waiting for, the entire other team to make the first move, and then they ended up pretty much getting wiped for it. A couple other things I saw, I feel like on Magic played really good on this on her, but there was a lot of missed opportunities for him. I feel like that Scorpion that was on his side was up for like 3 or 4 purples. He never even got that Draugr. I think the Awilish ended up coming over and getting the first Draugr. There was a couple missed opportunities where he really could have pushed his lead and gotten more farm and allowed himself to progress throughout a little bit easier. But overall, I mean, it was a really exciting match. I don't necessarily think it was a pick or ban type of determination on what happened in the game. I really think it's more so of play style. And if Chris Forth decides to play another potentially aggressive support, I really think that he needs to initiate more, make those decisions where he's not doing the peel as much as some certain gods, maybe like a Geb or what else do we have for supports? That are more supporty. He wasn't engaging as much as he should have, and I think that's kind of where they failed because he had opportunities to create pressure and he didn't create that pressure, and I think that's ultimately why they ended up losing that match.
Well, We'll see if that happens after a short break, and then we'll be back with the game 2 of this set. Hey guys, welcome back to the Smite Albion Giants League. I'm Snake here, joined by Ted, and we just saw Tokyo Vice won the first game, so now we're just going to jump right into the second game. First, picks and bans, and well, we discussed in the analysis at the end of the game one that you thought that there was nothing really much to change draft wise, but
First of all,
um,
Snake, I can't deal with this right now. I can't do. I got hold on. I got to boost my chair up because you're way too taller than me. Let's see. Nope, you're still taller. I got to go taller. All right, that's the highest I can go. That's the best I can do. So that's it seems like we have a remake here. It seems like we don't have the picks and bans for the actual set. But yeah, I feel like Tokyo Vice played their game properly and were willing to be patient with their game. They pressed the issue when they knew that they could. They realized that Stardust wasn't very aggressive at all, where they probably could have been. They had more of a. They did have some sustain from the Horus, and they had the ability to dive in the backline with his ult. They just didn't. They didn't really do that, and Tokyo Vice really took advantage of it. So that's what I got from that first game. I just would like to see if Stardust Vice is going to get that aggressive support, which we look like we might have with the Hercules, then play that. Play it to its maximum ability and stop being reactive to what Tokyo Vice want to do.
well, from the picks that I'm seeing, this is like a real completely different situation we have here now. Uh, I can say all of these picks weren't played in the last match, and also some of them were actually banned, and they go through the pick phase now. So, what do you think about this? I mean, now we're not seeing the four physical team comp from both teams, but I, from what I'm seeing like really different focused team comps now.
Yeah, so Chiron's got great survivability with his ult. He's able to secure kills and potentially revive himself if he gets a kill. Depending on his build path, depends on if he's going to have early game pressure or more mid game pressure, and help out his team that way. Izanami is always going to be a threat in the ADC role as far as her autos just doing as much damage as they do. Really going to be interesting to see with this Ravana. Ravana is always a super interesting jungle pick where a lot of versatility, has the immunity, has the CC immunity, and being able to not be stuck where he doesn't want to be stuck, and kind of make an influence at all times. I think the highlight for me is going to be on this Achilles, man. I feel like Achilles has a ton of versatility, able to secure kills and lock things down, and be able to just do so much and get across the map and really influence things. So I think that if the Achilles is able to get around and do what Achilles does, then Tokyo Vice will take this. But if Stardust Vice is able to mitigate the Achilles, if they're able to somehow slow him down and not allow him to level at the same speed as his Pele, potentially Stardust has an ability to win this game, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, this kind of draft is exciting because it's really different, meta-wise and from what we've been seeing. But let's wait no more. Let's just jump right into the game two. Frog and Supersonic Blur, take it away.
Thank you so much, Snaked and Ted on the desk. Those picks went by, I think, once again in the blink of an eye, as we had a remake there. So unfortunately, didn't get a chance to see the bans, but we do get completely different comps, as was mentioned on the desk, and 4 physical from both sides and 2 mid laners, which is kind of where I want to start. These 2 mid laners, not only are they wildly different in terms of, I think, play style from the last 2 mid laners we just saw, but neither of them have been very popular in the meta thus far across the board. Both of these feel like they're pulling deep in the bag for these.
Well, certainly for looking, I feel like this is a bit of a trauma response to what happened last game. It was, hey, at the moment I showed up in a fight, I immediately got ran down like a dog, so I'm just going to play a guard who literally sits the other side of the map, but we'll talk about that in a sec. Blink on in already for some early aggression.
Diablo trying to get the first blood, but might be turned around on some damage exchanged on both sides as health bots get popped on both sides as well, and members regenning up to full health here, and we'll see hopefully a friendly exchange of clearing this wave, and they may trade towards those mid camps as they get some pressure from Tokyo, clearing that mid wave faster, but it looks like it'll just be a friendly trade as the enemy team will choose to go for those right mid camps. So no action, or some action, but no kills fall just yet.
Not just yet, but Duo Lane certainly looking to set some of that up. The Achilles over here. This is Achilles support. Not something I've seen in a long time. iRafa being a prominent member of this, but this is something I think sits right up Brizzy Main's option. It's just that threat of activation on the ultimate. The execute's perfect for it, and with this kind of a comp, they're running straight on back with the same looking build, looking to be aggressive early and just bully out the lane. I love it.
Yeah, 2 warrior supports in game number 1 and 2 warrior supports in game number 2, and still even different looks on these warrior supports. I fully expect Chris to be a little bit even more aggressive, I think, with the Hercules, trying to get some of these pick plays off, but we see some poke over here in the dual lane. Chris actually getting a little bit low. Brizzy not having the stun available on cooldown. Some damage. Lonzo dashing in. Not able to get that last bit of damage off and may have put himself in a rough spot. Taziablo looking for that knockup. Will take some damage onto Lonzo, falling to half HP already and trying to get involved. Good dash. Will put him in a rough spot now. Great push. Will put Brizzy in an even rougher spot, trying to finish it off, but caught between a tower and a rough place, taken down for second blood.
And that's a really, really nice look for Stardust, especially after the start that the first game went off to, and over the other side of the map, even taking aggressive stance there. Sorry, Tokyo, though, taking an aggressive stance over on this side of the map to try and even things out. But even so, 2 kills is a great start to this, especially on the Pele, on the Chiron. This Chiron, a god who, honestly, I'm surprised we haven't seen more of. With all the changes to these items, we're in a burst meta, Ulra's in a whole big thing, there's a whole, issue with some of these, like, how oppressive some of these Maze Tree items are and the Transcendences. Chiron uses them absolutely phenomenally and has a heal in his kit and has a massive long-range ult and CC immunity, and in my opinion, it's just better than Ulra when it comes to the teamfight stage, so why not take the Chiron?
Looks like he's trying to take advantage of those good items as well, starting out with the Moomba's Dagger, as opposed to the Hunter's Cowl, which is started off by his competitor on the other side. But it's another engagement here in the mid lane. Rich looking to be taken down, gets the ult and the shield off, but does not save his life. But Ninja trades back. Both mid laners fall so far, and it's Taziablo trying to get the escape off. Ninja follows up with the ultimate, waiting for the CC on the cooldowns, looking for the damage, not able to find it on that last ability, so Pele will get out scot-free.
For now, being able to get away 100 HP, about 100 more than they needed at this point in time, but I like to see the aggressive plays. But that said, Shadow, someone who's obviously was rather quiet in the last game, starting to show up with a solo kill, this time on the Vaman, a god who, again, we rarely see the Vaman come on through, but hey, if it's working out for Shadow at this point in time, then I see no reason to not let it keep going.
Yeah, Vamana is a dangerous pick if it can get ahead. Not commonly picked right now, and I think people continue to think that if you get a Curse Donk on the other side, if there's a Curse Donk picked up from Stardust Vice, then the Vamana just becomes useless. But the zoning potential of that ultimate, even if it's Vamana taking all of that damage, and even if Vamana ends up falling, the amount of space you can create with an ultimate like that, in addition to the damage that gets added on if he finds himself a lead here, off to a great start in the solo lane so far.
Yeah, and despite the changes in the comps, and despite, as the desk mentioned, these are 2 drafts that are, all of the gods are completely different in this. I definitely feel that Tokyo Vice's draft feels like it's trying to do the exact same thing as before. Busy Main wants to just run in and walk at people, cause some troubles. Ninja wants to be able to turn up and cause a lot of chaos and be very safe from the jungle. Rich, middle of a team fight, drop a huge chunk of damage and try and freak off as long as they can. And Shadow, wall. Now, admittedly, I say that as if the 2 gods are the same or comparable, but they want to be able to cause more trouble, eat a lot of abilities, and absorb a lot of damage. Similar idea, you both those gods like Nike and Vaman pop the ult and run at people. That's what they look to try and do, and it's Stardust to have the more altered kind of a comp. Taizao is still looking to be aggressive, but Pick 6 is now not as aggressive, looking to try and set up for the team. And Lucky is trying to adapt to what the enemy had done last time. We'll have to see, though, if they will be able to do so. Good flip and kick back in, but Rich, looking pretty for now.
Field and ult forced out once again, but it's yet another trade. Brizzy trades that one back this time. Yet again, mid laner for mid laner, but trying to trade one back is Taziablo, and it's actually Pick 6 rotating over as well. But no one able to find anything until the dual lane speaks up. Lonzo Ball getting another solo kill for the side of Tokyo.
And this is a fantastic look, especially with this as an army build, one I am very familiar with, mostly from the actual speedrunning side of Conquest. Yes, that is a genuine thing that exists. But Izanami is such a phenomenal god when it comes to just clearing the wave and pushing as hard as possible. So being able to get a little bit of a lead now makes this even scarier for the Izanami. Death Draws Nigh as a passive. Hey, now you've just got penetration. You can worry solely on going into attack speed, getting some more damage on your kit. And not to mention that they changed the way that her basics work. Before, it went out and came back in and it did 100% damage, 70-30, I think. Now, I think it's like 80-25 or 80-35, something like that. I think it's 110 or 115% of the number that you see for basic attack damage, which is very, very powerful if you can get that secondary swing in. But for now, it's mostly just trying to get that clear going. And the pressure we've seen from Tokyo Vice across the board has been really nice to see, even though Stardust have been answering back better than Game 1.
Yeah, despite those early kills from Stardust, it's still Tokyo seeming to be on the front foot, and a lot of this pressure continues to be created by Brizzy Main on this Achilles, just constantly showing face, constantly being an annoyance in the front line. I mean, he finds himself here between three members, just creating space for Lonzo Ball and the Izanami, and able to dodge that out, causing some damage here, and it's caused his mid laner to miss a wave already, but Lonzo Ball pushed back. It will get out scot-free for the time being, but I mean, it looks like because of Brizzy's positioning, they're forced to spend so much time here. Pookie misses a wave. They have to double split the purple buff, which not ideal for this stage of the game. He's having such an impact that's not being reflected in the statistics.
Yeah, and that was a 2v3, almost a 3v1 situation that Brizzy saw themselves in. And again, they just, I'm going to walk at you, Lucky. What are you going to do about it? And Lucky goes, I'm going to back up. Even on this Thoth in that situation, and like you mentioned, that mid-wave gets pushed, they lose that. They lose farm weight. They lose other pressure as well, so the farm from that wave goes down the drain. Rich gets a little bit ahead. They get invaded on the backs. Now Tyze is losing some of their farm as well. It's just the little trickle that's being caused here, and Brizzy Main, I feel we've said Brizzy Main's name a lot, and it's just such a fantastic thing seeing a support play in this way and not get punished for it. Like, they don't over-aggress into it. They are well within their ability to do this without it feeling dangerous. Brizzy knows exactly what they're doing, as I'm likely going to see them get solo kill. But no, even now, they're just, let's see what I can pull from Magic.
And we see him continue to make some pressure over here in the duel lane as Chiron will be forced to back up. But across the board, ever since those early kills, the game has slowed down quite a bit. Tokyo has amassed a little bit of over an 800 gold lead at this stage of the game. Nothing to keep anybody up at night. Just enough to feel good about yourselves moving forward into this next fight, but not enough perhaps to give you a serious advantage. What might be enough is this 2-level lead that has been amassed once again in the mid lane. Pookie hasn't fallen, I'm wrong about that. Both mid laners have been traded twice. I forgot about that. Both of them have fallen twice, but despite both of them having those two deaths, it's still this lead that we found on Rich, similar to Game 1.
Indeed, now you can see that Tokyo Vice, they're going to see how these frontliners start to cause some trouble here, 4v4, but who's going to be the first to go? It's the blink from the Verman going on in.
Get some damage onto Pele, forced out. Great Cerberus all brings them into a rough spot, and it's falling first on the side of Tokyo Vice. Members fall, Vamana forced into the ultimate, and members low for the side of Stardust. He's chasing them out, but will he get the confirmed kill waiting on the damage? And it's actually Pele who picks that one up first. Chris in a rough spot, able to dash away. No, members fall for the side of Stardust. Just 2 for Tokyo Vice.
Really, really nicely played there from that Pele, just finding the target, going back around. Also, as well, Luki just saying, if I die, then I'm still going to pick one member up. That's not quite what you want to see. Rotation coming on through from Lozo makes a big impact in that engagement, bringing it from a 2 for none right back to a 2 for 2.
It did look good as that fight ended, but some overstaying from Stardust Vice. Didn't expect them to stick around in that jungle for that long. That will pick up the tier 1 tower, at least a lot of damage on it over here on the left-hand side of the map for that rotation from Lonzo Ball. So we won't get off scot-free. There will be some pressure on the map gained for the enemy team on that side. But we saw that tier 1 tower get taken down for Stardust Vice first in the last game, and it didn't do a ton for them over towards that dual lane pressure. Didn't end up having that long-lasting impact that they're looking for. One thing I will say about this stage of the game versus this point in the game during game 1 is the difference in the Gold Fury pit right now. This Gold Fury Scorpion, 12 minutes into the game, still on the map. Neither team really focusing towards this large objective, which was the source of 2 major fight victories for Tokyo Vice in game number 1. I mean, it could be argued that gave them their lead and their confidence as they move towards the later stages of the game, and it's not an option right now.
And that's a really big thing. I think that's a deliberate choice from Stardust not to try and take that or push it. Instead, we've seen the right side taken down instead, which is currently in the favor of Stardust, but might be being looked at. As again, we find ourselves over this side. Hercules goes for a push-pull. Gets the pull, but no push. And now it's just going to see how this rest of the fight is going to break on out. Vaman gets poked out. No anti-heal online outside of Cerberus passive for Stardust. So this Vaman will have free reign in any engagement they want to take. That's a back, but no one's really aware of it. So instead, it's just a posturing skirmish in the jungle.
Both forced to dash away. Tons of pressure on this side of the map for Tokyo Vice as they continue to try and force their hand, but they've been unsuccessful in finding a pick so far, and it's only the tanks now who are giving them the chance to do some damage. And Chris keeps finding these good push-pulls. He keeps, ultimately pushing these targets and hitting his abilities, but it feels like there's not much follow-up off of a lot of this setup coming from Chris. I feel like Pookie needs to be there to successfully follow up a little bit more if these fights are going to be successful.
Now look at this now. Without the Gold Fury up, Tokyo Vice want to start a major objective. They've had to draft in Lonzo to try and look towards the Pyromancer. They will go ahead and grab that, but that means that Magic has just been able to steadily accrue themselves a little bit more pressure, taking down that tier 1 tower. Gold Fury is now on the table, but Stardust Vice should be able to amass something here. Stygian Torment comes out, throws Benzie back into the tower, but unfortunately just too tanky now.
And that tier 1 tower will get taken as well, so there still remain 3 members on this side of the map. But this is given a chance for Pele to take some much-needed farm. Gets all of the buff steals essentially away from the enemy team, but now stuck in a little bit of a rough spot. Blinks through Brizzy and is going to end up on the other side and still has the ultimate if he needs to escape further, but Pick 6 able to secure his escape right there. So he just gets some good farm and ends up, I believe, a little bit ahead of his counterpart. Now 2 levels ahead for this Pele. Hopefully she'll use that to make these huge impacts that they might need in towards these next fights. I mean, that is, you get one of those. You really get to skip one fight, you skip one objective defense, and now you have a lead, but now you got to use it.
Agreed on that side of things. It's similar idea to what you do when it comes to solo lane. You get a lead and then you say, right, I can afford to miss a wave, 2 waves to try and make something happen. And if nothing happens, okay, you're even. It sucks, but you're in that spot. With the fight that went on and broke out, nothing ended up happening, so you're not losing much of a lead. You've extended it a little bit further, and that's good. Now Stardust may be looking to try and set something up around the Gold Fury. They have great secure with this Thoth ultimate and a lot of good burst potential. Good pull back in. but it's only on busy, so no real worries. I do want to see Pick 6 make that rotation, though. They've been slow on some of these before, and it has been something that Tokyo Vice have been trying to punish, but for now it's just poke out whatever they can, and it's Busy who's eating the brunt of it.
Busy in the front line right now, trying to escape,
That's
forced to use
huge.
that ultimate, but Taziello finishes it anyways. Hera ultimate trying to get the village kill, and so will be Ninja trading that back 1-for-1 across the map so far. Support for jungler definitely favoring Tokyo Vice right now. The solo laners are now ready to join the fight. Chris steps up, tries to get a pull back, but takes too much damage. Not able to have the setup for his team, and it's Vaman in the backline doing the same thing. Magic taken down as well. 3 members fall for Stardust Vice.
Okay, I have no idea what teleportation shutout did there, but last I saw them, they were looking into mid lane, then they come along from the left-hand side into that engagement. That was huge and so perfect for what they wanted to try and do. Rather than try and CC out Chris, who's got 3 members tailing him, go and find where the allies are for Chris. Don't let them engage. Don't let them come into this fight. And that's exactly what Shadao did. Run straight into the backline at iMagic. Pops Thorn says, you do not get to fight anyone. You're fighting me right now, and you're going to lose that engagement.
And what we've seen from Vamana, I think, recently in that last fight and in this lane after he got that solo kill is he's been building to do exactly that in these fights. You see his build contains mostly hybrid items, and what's not hybrid is pure offense. That Hasten Fatalis is an item of the past, I think, that we used to see on all AA junglers, and we used to see on Vamana when he was really popular, but it gets pulled out now, and I think he fully expects to be the one dealing the damage to the backliners.
It's not the greatest option in the world, but given the fact that, fun fact, Chiron and Vaman have the same base movement speed, this is going to enable him to keep on that chase. Because they're both second to Mercury. They both have 380, and Mercury, being the fastest god alive, did share that for a while, and then they made it 381 because he just had to be the fastest. So that's a fun little fact on Factoid. But this is going to help. Usually you'd say, oh, you don't want that, as that's something you don't also want to see is your solo laner getting picked off in the jungle. That is a fantastic look for Tokyo Vice, but just on that point, usually you'd see the Frostbound Hammer to slow the enemies. In this instance, against speedy gods who can get away very quickly, being able to chase them down can be just as beneficial.
Pick 6 falls right there to the Ravana. Good opportunity looking for him. Able to get that kill. Does expend the blink, but it's actually Chiron now rotating to a fight, and Izanami choosing not to, so the roles are swapped for this time around, and they have to try and take advantage of it while they still have this advantage as soon as Cerberus comes back up. But it's actually Chris now in a rough spot. Low health, Hera ult gets forced out and executed right in there for Brizzy. 1 member taken down, and it looks like the next member will be the tier 1 tower.
And this is what that ult does from Achilles. Just makes you start doing mental arithmetic as you're trying to play. What's 30% of your HP? How much damage are you taking? Can you get away from this? No, you can't. You just can't be doing all of that as Shadao tries to blink in, but eats way more damage than I think they were expecting. Not as tanky, and with no ultimate available, they cannot just push up so frivolously. Now we're going to see if that's going to get chased out and punished. Volcanic Lightning comes through, but not quite enough.
Magic hits the ultimate, able to finish off that kill, but it's Ninja on the other side. Taziablo falling for that side, and it's Ninja almost falling on the other side, but it's left in a 3v4 for the time being. When Hercules rejoins, it'll be even on both sides. But these low health members from Tokyo Vice able to clean up and get out just as clean.
For now, and this is, I think, Stardust have to try and play with what the hand they've been dealt here. They've got a little bit of pressure that they can push with. They can try and maybe go for the Pyromancer at this point in time. The big thing for me that I'm seeing is you've got 2 gods who have super long-range snipes, and everything else is kind of dive. It's so difficult to try and pick one member off in that spot for Tokyo Vice, so they've got to try and consolidate it and play a little bit more careful as they find themselves on the receiving end of a big baby.
He low on mana, not able to help out in this fight, and Alita, one of his team members, falling as Vamana able to do the most of that damage and take out yet another member. Lazy backing on the speed buff, but a good Aegis will save his life for the time being. Maybe not at all, though. Ninja still has the ultimate available just off of cooldown. That red diamond, blue diamond, excuse me, colorblind here, on the desk, and so it's on the red team. The red blue diamond filled up just after, so was not able to, but they were able to complete the fire giant after pushing those members back to their base.
So one alarming thing I'm seeing from Stardust right now as they are getting run down by this Verman is no anti-heal to try and deal with it. Now with the Caduceus' shield, there's a fair bit of healing on the side of Tokyo Vice that is available to them. Oh, no. With the Mystic Rush securing 2 kills and the full Fire Giant, they are in a world of trouble. But look at it, 10-hand Shadow Fist, a little bit of healing. Rich, a little bit of healing in the Soul Gem. And now just it's going to cause a lot of trouble when they've got the anti-heal. They are essentially out-sustaining this engagement. Sagittarius comes on, or Centaurus comes out, but not enough damage. And that is a rampage now for Ninja, who might find themselves a double.
That's 3 kills on this side of the map so far for Ninja, looking for the 4th if he can keep track of Chris. That blink may save his life for the time being, but Cerberus on the other side of the map in a little bit of trouble against 3, and he'll end up falling trying to defend that Phoenix, but not enough to defend the Phoenix at the end of the day. So, I mean, great macro play. I think we have to comment on Tokyo Vice. Able to push the members back outside of a fight, take that Fire Giant, and then continue to get kills across the map as well as picking up that objective.
Indeed. Great work going ahead and saying, we've got a lead. We know how to play a lead as they're finding themselves now up around 13,000 gold. This is a very, it's almost signature style of what you end up seeing there. Mystic Rush on the disengage. Out comes the Dark Portal and swallows 1. That might just be game because it's a double kill now for the Izanami.
Triple kill, ending this fight before it even started. Members picked off, pushed up a little bit too far, and Lonzo Ball sinking the basket, trying to close out game number 2 here and secure a 2-0 for his team, but it's now 2v5 if they want to go for this. Members full health for the side of Stardust Vice, the 2 that are alive, but Titans falling full. Frenzy is popped half health already. Cerberus is not going to be able to do enough. In fact, he'll fall for the 4th kill in this fight for Lonzo Ball. Might be a 5th, but the Titans the 5th before that, and they secure the 2-0 for Tokyo Vice.
8 minutes faster than game 1, coming on through here in a dominant fashion here. Their team comp completely different. Their team play exactly the same. They know how to pressure or lead. They know how to take early fights and pressure out. And they just played their game.
They looked fantastic towards the team fight stage and towards the mid game. I think there are positive things to say for Stardust Vice. I think especially their jungler had some really good moments. Taziablo making an impact in various lanes across the game. But I think a bad look for Pookie in both game 1 and game number 2 compared to Rich in game 1 and game number 2 doing a ton for his team here. And it looked just fantastic across the board individually and fantastic synergy outside of Tokyo Vice. But that'll do it here on the cast for me and Blur. I've been Frog. His name is Supersonic Blur. We're not done quite yet, though. To break this game down, we're going to throw it back to the desk to Snake and Ted.
Thank you so much, Frog and Supersonic Blur, for that amazing cast of this game 2 of this set. And Tokyo Vice took the win. This was way more dominant than game 1. The gap already when it started, it never lived. Everything was so dominant from Tokyo Vice. And considering that there were so different team comps compared to game 1, Ted, what do you think was the game changing here?
I feel like the first game, Stardust had kind of a fighter's chance. They just didn't play the comp correctly. Kind of seemed like they were deflated going into game 2. And I mean, Taziablo did a great job of pushing pressure around the map. I think they had an early kill, double kill, not necessarily themselves, but for the team in duo lane early. But it just it just seemed like Pookie had kind of a hard time in mid both games. And hey, it's totally normal. Everybody has a rough game, a rough set. You snap out of it and you play better. But it seemed like Pookie really just didn't ever get their feet set in the entire set themselves. And ultimately, Taziablo was either forced to try to farm other lanes or try to help him, and it just seemed like maybe he put himself in a bad situation more often than he should have. So, something for him to work on. I'm sure that it's something that's in his head, and he's going to be grinding on and trying to improve from. But overall, I mean, Tokyo Vice had a great job. They had clear direction the entire game. They knew that when they were applying pressure, they knew when they needed to farm. They knew how to apply pressure. They just seemed very composed. Maybe Stardust Vice needs a little bit more time together. We're going to the playoffs next week, so maybe they just need to do a couple scrims this week and get on the same page. But if they have to face off again in the playoffs, hopefully Stardust Vice comes back and is a little more composed with a clear direction with what they want to do, and they'll be able to actually give it a more competitive set for Stardust Vice, or for Tokyo Vice. I'm sorry.
Well, you say it perfectly. I mean, I guess the Star Advice has some moments, and definitely they need to work on those facing of the playoffs. But that's all for us today. Again, thank you so much for Frog and Supersonic Lord for the amazing cast, and of course to Dinosaur for running production today. I'm Snake here with Ted Listens, and I'll see you next time.